Sophie here with another Sims 4 PS4 build. I'm back. I took a little break, well, quite a big break actually, uh, with COVID and everything that happened, and some health issues that now I've dealt with, and I'm well again. I can finally get back to doing more Sim builds, which is really great. All the footage that you're going to see on the time lapses is coming from my Twitch stream footage. So if you want a link to that, you can find that in the description below. So this is one of the first projects I started with coming back to The Sims this year. And it's a cottage build, which was suggested by my friend Alice. She wanted me to do a U-shaped cottage with like a kind of garden in the middle of it. So I started with the shape, and then I wanted to put in a second floor bedroom that was like inside the roofing, but that's really tricky to achieve in The Sims 4, just because of how you have to do the roofs and the wall sizes, and particularly in putting windows and being able to just put items in there because you get quite a small room. As you can see, it's quite tricky trying to build it, so I essentially gave up on that for then, well, for that day at least, and just put in some simple roofing. I just wanted a kind of thatched roof style that's typical of a cottage. So the next day I basically came back, and before I started on doing the second floor, which I had an idea of how to do, I started doing the entranceway, so the front door. So what you can see here is just me creating this kind of porch with a little roof coming out of it. And then I eventually put flowers on the top of it to make it more sort of fairy tale themed, and give like the whole cottage a kind of more Hansel and Gretel kind of style to it. So after I did the flowers, I looked back at the roof and I realized that originally I wanted a thatched roof look, and I played around with like the roof height and everything, because to me it looked too tall, and then I tried to get the same kind of texture on the roof as the little roof coming off of it, but I eventually went back to the thatched look because it matches a cottage style better. So then I started playing around with the second floor bedroom that I really wanted. I couldn't really figure out where to put it because of wall height. So for the upstairs bedroom, the windows were the most important part for me because when I came up with the idea of the cottage and it being two-story, I only wanted to build a bedroom, but I really liked the idea of these two little jutting out windows on each side. Just even if I didn't build two rooms, it would still give the impression that it was a two-story cottage, which was kind of nice. In the end, it kind of works, but it also was tricky because of the wall height and everything. That one end ends up looking very different to the other. Then I was going through the wall textures and trying to figure out what to put on. I couldn't really remember what cottages typically had. I thought maybe wood or stone walls, so I used a little bit of a mixture of both, and then used just a kind of plain white colour on the second floor, which contrasts with the it contrasts with the bottom floor and with the thatch roofing, which is kind of nice. And then when it came to putting in the windows themselves, I thought like the best ones I wanted to look for something cottagey, so that's why I came across the brown ones with the shutters on. But I really only liked them for the top floor. The two or four windows that I put in on the top floor. So then I started on the garden, and to make it look more cottagey and fairy tale like, I used these round stone slabs that you can find in the rugs section. And I just reduced the size of a few of them to give a bit of variation in the sizes, so it looked almost like stepping stones. And that would lead from the archway that I put in to the front door itself and kind of curve around, which is a quite a natural look, and very like fairy tale as well. I also chose this tree with the lanterns coming off it, for the same reasons again, that it's quite enchanted looking when it becomes evening and the lights come on. And it was inspired by a house that I'd seen locally on a walk. And then as I was placing windows downstairs, I tried to put in the same windows from the top floor, but they just didn't give enough light. And I thought that the dark brown just didn't look very nice with the pink and the stone walls. So I chose some bigger windows that were in white and just kind of made all the accents, like the poles and the front door, white as well, so that it kind of contrasted with those textures on the wall. And I don't really mind that they don't match the top windows, because I think it just work. They both work for each coloured wall that they're against. I also knew one of the first things that I definitely needed on the build was these flower trays on all the windows. Again, they're just very countryside, very cottagey, very fairy tale like. And I realised that there's no windows on the back wall at all, which it kind of looks very bare. So I could, if I wanted to, go back and actually put maybe some like vines or flowers going up the wall on the back. But at the minute, I don't think it needs it, and I'm pretty okay with having that bare wall at the back. As I said, when I started building this, originally I couldn't get that second floor in the roof as I wanted to. So when I first started doing this build, I actually made the living room half living room, half bedroom. So in the corner where the windows are, originally there was a bedroom there, but you're not gonna see that in this build because it took too much time to show you all of that, and then for me to just get rid of it essentially. So once I put in the foundations for the bathroom and the living room furniture, I started work on the second floor, trying to get a bedroom in that corner above where the kitchen will be. As you can see, it was quite difficult trying to make the room fit into the roof as seamlessly as possible without too much of a wall sticking out, but also have enough space in the room to actually have a bed and all the furniture and everything, and also to include stairs going up. So it doesn't look as seamless as I wanted it to in the end, but I think with the roofs that I added, it kind of worked, and although it doesn't match the other side of the house, I think it's quite well hidden and it looks relatively nice and seamless. So then I started on the staircase itself. I decided to put it in the back corner. It was hard to try and figure out exactly what shape and what direction it would go in a way that it would not take up too much space of the bedroom and would also not destroy any of the walls or the roofs that I'd put in, be objected by them, that kind of thing. So you get a little glimpse here of what the living room slash bedroom looked like when I originally started the build. And then I moved all the furniture up to the bedroom from there. And you can see where I've put the bed, it seems like a really tight space, so I was kind of worried at first that the sim wouldn't be able to actually access the bed. I think The Sims 4 is a lot better at that than the old versions of The Sims now, in having they seem to need a lot less space to actually access objects, which is a lot nicer and better for gameplay. So with the bedroom actually taken out of the living room, it gave me the space to then add a dining area at the back of the living room instead, and a study on the opposite side of the wall as well. That way I could put as much kitchen as I wanted into the other half of the cottage, and not have to worry about putting a dining room in there as well, with the staircase blocking that kind of area that I would have put a dining room. So this left a lot of space in the kitchen, maybe a little bit too much space in the kitchen in the end. I was able to make a little island in the middle, which is one of my favourite things to do, and I played around with the shape of that for a while as well. I think a lot of cottages, when people think of cottages, I think they picture very small spaces, so having a big kitchen doesn't necessarily make me think of a cottage, but I kind of liked the space in the end, and I liked using the old cooking appliance that made it feel a bit more rustic and cottagey, and I used a lot of decor that also gave that effect. I do often use these same kitchen cabinets, but I've never used the blue colour that they come in, and I think it was a good choice of colour for the cottage because it's quite soft but also sort of modern feeling. The cabinets though, when I started putting them in, I started to think they looked very much like the TARDIS, and I just wish that they had a bit more variety in the options for which ones you can put down, because some of them are great and have like the open shelving or the corner feature or glass fronts, but the plain one panel ones are quite dull, and there's no variety there, where I wish there was some options. I tried to incorporate a little bit more blue into the colour of the walls, but I wanted one of the walls to have a texture, so I chose stone, which is essentially the same as the outside, but that kind of makes me think of a cottage, sort of like the kitchen and the cottage in The Holiday that Kate's character lives in. The floors themselves were a lot more difficult to figure out, because I thought that the kind of black and white tiles would suit that kind of kitchen, but it looked very chaotic against the stone and the blue, I think. So I just carried on the same wood that is throughout the whole of the first floor of the building. When it came to actually putting in decoration, appliances and that kind of thing, I think the sizes both a blessing and a burden at the same time, because usually I think when you're given smaller spaces, it's easier to clutter it with a lot of things, and bigger spaces, it can look very bare, or and it's really hard to figure out what to put where. Plants generally tend to be my favourite thing to place as a decorative object, and particularly for the island in the middle, I often choose some kind of flowers or plants as the centerpiece for any kind of table, surface in general. So I chose those for the island in the kitchen. So the bathroom is a very, very small space. I didn't want to make a big bathroom or make it on the second floor so that I could just have that bedroom there. But the first thing I chose was the shower and bath combination. It's one of my favorites in the game, just because I really love the pattern and the colors on the shower curtain there. So then I wanted to pull some of the colors from that shower curtain into the room, but not make it so chaotic, because of it being such a small room. It just felt like the walls needed to be a similar color but very soft, and then all the accents could be a brighter color. So I chose the sink because it's got the yellow and the blue that match the shower curtain, and then I chose some other pink assets like the mirror with the pink light and the green soft lantern light in the middle, which kind of pulls in that plant feeling. I also chose pink tiled floor for the bathroom as well. It's a very soft colour and it's one of my favourite tiles in the game. And then if you've been watching any of my videos, you'd know that one of my favourite things to do is to pick out rugs for rooms. So I tried to find one that matched the plant feel, and I chose a soft green one to match the lantern as well, to pull in that colour a little bit more into the room. So I moved back into the living room to start work on that again after moving the bedroom out. I went with these high back chairs because they're one of my favourites again. They've got a sort of vintage feel, but also a little bit stylish as well. Possibly a kind of grandma feel, but I tried to make it as stylish as possible, using like an old television stand and the nice fireplace. I also decided earlier on in the build that one of the things that I really wanted in was a utility corner or a utility room, with like a washing machine and all the kind of items that go along with that, ironing board and all those kinds of things. And in the end I settled for putting it under the stairs in the back corner of the kitchen, which I think really works for the kind of cottage feel and having it sort of hidden away. Some of my favourite items in The Sims 4 actually come from the Laundry Day pack. For example, the bench and the shelving unit that I've put in there. I like the idea that you can see where all the kind of spare bed sheets and towels and cleaning supplies all go. It just gives it a very realistic sort of home feel. I had to put these wicker baskets in for decoration instead of putting the shelving units under the stairs because they were clipping through the bottom of the staircase in the end. Once I'd finished on the laundry area, I went back up to the bedroom to try and finish that off. It was a really difficult part to do. As you can see, it's kind of, I have to zoom in kind of far because the view with the roofs, it kept obstructing what I could see and how I was building. So it became very frustrating to try and see what I was doing while I was building there. I think the rug that I went with in the end and all the little details kind of fit together and match very well, and create this very soft pink and beige look. It's kind of one of my favourite colour palettes to go with, but in The Sims it's quite difficult based on lighting to match colours up very well, which is why I ended up changing the wall colours downstairs as well. I then just started adding a few more bits and pieces downstairs, just on the walls, and a few plants on surfaces and things, just to kind of make it feel even more homey and cottagey. I then realised that I had forgotten about a very important member of the family that I was building for, and that was the cat. So I went back to the bedroom, and in this little square that is right by the staircase, I just tried to put in a cat bed / tree as the home for the cat, and then added some more furnishings like paintings and pictures for the walls as well. When I started doing the outside garden area, after I'd done the pathway, the first thing I thought of was seating. I think all gardens should have like a nice seating area, so I first added in the bench by the lantern tree. So that's kind of more for like hosting and visitors and things. And then I went back to the small garden and I started laying out a few different kinds of benches and chairs, just to see what sticks. And I went with the wooden white chair. It felt most cottagey and more in keeping with the rest of the house and the feel. And I chose a kind of sort of matching wicker chair to go alongside it as well. I also had a birdhouse because it felt like the most cottagey thing you could put in a garden. And then I moved on to all the flowers and the foliage for the garden. First adding in some flowers going up the wall and some ivy as well, because that's quite a typically English cottage flower that you see. And I then used up as much of the free space and the corners to just make it feel very full with gardens, as if the person living there takes very good care of the place and very good care and attention to detail with the plants that she grows, and tried to kind of make the whole seating area just feel very encompassed with greenery and flowers as well. So I used these bushes to kind of corner off that area and corner off any other grass, and then leave a little bit of it open so that you could actually access the seating area itself. I also like to mix up gardens with a few potted plants and that come from the indoor plants section. Um, I think it's strange when it is in seasons because it kind of kills all the natural flowers and plants. So it does sometimes look strange, but when it's in the spring and summer seasons, they kind of blend in with it and look quite nice. I did try to stick to some similar styles of plants and foliage, but I think sometimes the variation can help, particularly to break up the amount of flowers in the garden. As pretty as they are, I think there's a point where it becomes too much flowers, and I definitely almost crossed the line here with that. The drop down planters are one of my favourite items that I've ever had in The Sims. I've ended up using them pretty much in every build that I've had so far. I often find that as I'm going through items for a build, I'll find something else. So I just threw in that umbrella stand because I found it when I was looking for something else, and then added the planter outside because it felt like that was what the character would have would be interested in is planting because of the kind of well kept garden. I then used the terrain tool to add in some very delicate looking flowers on the floor and just to extend the stone pathway into the seating area, just to make it all kind of flow together very well. I also like to add in some very light dirt underneath all the bushes and the flowers and the trees, and sometimes kind of furniture just on where it hits the floor, just because it kind of gives it a more realistic effect than if you don't put that in. I then went back into the house just to do a final check, and I ended up finding some spare places where I could add a bit more decoration and life. So I just kept adding in some plants to the surfaces, like the succulents that I use literally all the time. Um, and then I tried some other new ones that I hadn't used before, like the lilies on the dining table and the cat succulent plant on the bookcase. I also then tried to add in a grand piano, but it just felt way too big for the spot, so I just took it out. And then, as always, I just finish by going into night mode and just looking at the way the light falls at nighttime. And I often add in some garden lighting, like I am here with the lampposts and the small little kind of garden lights as well. And then we move on to the reveal. I think in the end, I'm very happy with this build. It's not something I typically do. Often when I build houses, I do very modern style, very open plan with kind of big windows and high walls. So trying to work with a very small amount of space and a more kind of rustic, delicate vibe. It was like a bit more different and tricky than what I usually do. But I still think it came out very well. I really love the garden space. In the reveal shots, it looks kind of dark and brown, mostly because when I went to live mode it was just becoming spring, so as I said with seasons, it kills all the plants and you have to wait till spring and summer for them to actually look good again, which is a little bit annoying, but they still look good. And I think the whole cottage look is quite nice from the outside as well. My favourite part of the kitchen itself is the hanging pots from the ceiling. I like to put those in often over islands, and I obviously chose the one with the chicken on to make it feel even more rural and cottage like. I also still really love the corner with the washing machine and all the other bits of utility and washing up and cleaning supplies. It's not my favourite thing to play in The Sims, so I don't often put washing machines in just because I don't really find them that enjoyable to play through, and I just don't find The Sims need it that much. The living room and dining room and study area I think is the part that I'm the least happy with, but it still looks quite nice. It's very plain and simple. I think it's just the colours that I'm not super happy with. They feel quite strange, I think. The bathroom's probably my favourite room of the build itself, aside from the outside, just because I love the colours and I love the way I've incorporated the plants into that as well, with the hanging succulents and the mirror and all the little details that are in there. So that's it for the end of this video. I really hope you enjoyed it and that you liked this build. I've got a lot more content on my channel if you check it out, and also check out my Twitch channel for when I do the live stream builds, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you, bye bye.